So, by this point, you see me basically do a few episodes of the Golden Krone Hotel game here on Steam. But as I basically sort of like pointed out, or perhaps noted in like my showcase video, this is actually based on a Cinderella that basically was done in 2014. And essentially, this game here, it's basically had like a very interesting sort of development cycle. Initially, during like its like original 7-year-old release, it basically had a very simplified tutorial, and it basically eventually got like more simplified in a couple days later. And then it didn't have like any of its branches or anything like that. It was just like a hotel. But a lot of the key factors are still there. We basically have potions being you can basically get like free choices basically from them and stuff like that. But anyway, slowly you can see the progression of how this basically went. We have branches added. We have monsters being added. There's eventually one called a blood golem at some point, but apparently got removed down the way. Eventually we had to basically fight bosses at the end of these branches. There's like tweakings and stuff like that, and then rebalancing stuff. And then of course we went on to release it onto Steam, the developer. So, anyways, I figured I'd just jump into the Cinderella release here. And one thing I just want to point out here of this brief introduction of it is just to show off basically the tutorial here. So basically here's the tutorial. This is basically improving the fallen game. So eventually, the tutorial here is there's a bunch of grunts. And a fight to me is want to lure him out into the sun here. Well, I guess we sort of missed the sun because that's just a thing. Now, this tutorial here is very basic. Oh, there we go. He just died to sunlight. I think I'm in a hotel here already, but whatever. So I found silver armor. I found it lacking, so I discarded it. Got a few potions here. Note that basically these potions is either they're pre-identified in the original version, but it's fine. So I got blood, ale, soul elixir, oil, curry noodle soup. I guess you can't talk to these guys as here. Got any spare soul elixirs? They're worth their weight in gold. Okay, so you can't talk to them, you just have to walk into them. There's a manual. You feel stronger. Still Carl's Russian roller, by the way, as you can see, so. And now we turn into a vampire, and as you can see, we're doing vampire things. I missed the war. You think your blood flows here. Well, you haven't seen the war. All right, we're definitely in a hotel here. So basically, that's a showing of like what the tutorial's like and the basic like gameplay here for like the Universal Sun URL. I preferably like like the the following like sort of bug fix version here. So I've already jumped into it here a little bit. I'm not going to go into too in depth with like showing off this game like each level or at least a version of it, because like what it basically becomes, but it's kind of interesting to sort of show off as basically it was initially. So it's like the improved version here. So one of the things they basically did for the improved version here for the tutorial, basically like there's sunlight there. There's a vampire noble. You can't make that out right now. Maybe if you get closer. So noble, a vampire of the highest caste who is affected to Fane. These nobles are quite well fed and extremely dangerous. So basically, you can't fight this guy on equal footing at the start. Oh, look at this, got music. But you have to basically lure him into sunlight, and they'll die. And that's basically the tutorial area here. So I read a primer if I want. Is a primer on dexterity boost. You can now easily recognize vials of dexterity boost apparently. Okay. As you can see, the game looks very similar to the initial Cinderella version, because basically it's only been a couple days. So short history of a Sanguine War. So basically it's like a book basically. There we go, he died, that's fine. Alright, so by version 1.2, basically there's support for different window sizes. Potions are no longer shuffled. It was intentional but stupid design, etc, etc. There's a download for it if you want, but let's just play the Luna version here. Ow. I want to basically get the wait button basically in play. So at some point, it basically adds a wait button into the game, so you actually can wait. Let's just do this. Yeah, basically wait key now works on numpad. So that's basically this version right here. Oh, maybe there is a wait button. I just haven't been using it. Let's just see. Help. Yes, there is a wait button. It's just appeared right here. So press is 5. So wait. You rest for a while. There we go. Get my stats up. Read Grimoire. I learned a Firestorm skill, so now I can burn stuff. Read Grimoire again. I learned a Blast spell. Got Blast 2. I'm not sure there's any fail chance or anything like that, but whatever. Now I've got unidentified potions, so there's one of them popping up. There's a soul elixir. I'm not sure what to basically say about unidentified potions. I kind of like the idea of having some pre-identified ones. Let's just wait a little bit. Oh, you need oil basically to kindle torches. Okay. So, I can see why that was basically probably removed. because it's very annoying. Here's a runner. So this is basically a mid-level vampire and Fane's personal army. It shells vials of blood back and forth for nobility. So basically, like, that was basically an enemy vampire that like used to exist, but it got removed. By like dungeon version 1.3, you can see it basically like as like the dungeon branches. So you basically get like a higher difficulty. We get like library, mausoleum, pharmacopoeia, greenhouse. Some monsters got added. There's a blood golem apparently on here basically to find. Some new spells. Nobles will actually drink blood or take it from runners basically to heal up. The game should be fully playable on the keyboard, excluding examining tiles and potions. Quaffing and stat upgrades can be done with keys. And enemies can walk on stairs. It's just really interesting to see like how this game sort of progressed, I guess, in terms of like 7-year-old like mechanics and stuff. So there's like the help, vampires, humans. Here's some tips. Manipulating light is crucial to your survival. Don't hesitate to use torches. Is this the one where like he probably updated so like you don't have to use oil and torches and stuff like that? All torches now lit. Even if you extinguish all of them in return. So you can't see you, blah blah. Sunlight is a powerful tool. Now I got some music. There we go, we level up. There's a rat warrior. And just like the base game, you obviously sort of follow the the light. Torch oil. So basically there is still like torch oil basically in this like version of the game. Okay, spacebar rest for me now. That's nice. I'm just going to follow the torches for a little bit here. Primer. So the primer on Celestial Essence, you can now recognize vials of Celestial Essence. I think I eventually got rid of like the primers, like how useful they basically were for that, in order to like emphasize like the free option things. That's a very heavily armed statue. So there's a runner. I died. Oh, that's fine. So that would have been with dungeon branches, but whatever. So this was actually the one where you actually made it so like you actually beat the 4 bosses on the dungeon branches. Initially there was only like 4 dungeon branches, but whatever. It also adds like, the different like golem types as opposed to having just the blood golem. Adds like poison, delusion, stuff like that. Also made a vampire like, boss, like, he act normal when he's basically human, stuff like that. Anyway, so let's just keep on going. I've only gone for 15 minutes. I'm not sure, like, how much change basically see for the scenarios, like, for each version, like, initially. I'll have it probably, like, change basically appear, like, more later on. I have to say, I like this tutorial a lot better than the current one, but I can understand why it basically has, like, the, the tutorial it has right now. Does this tell me what, like, stats do? It does. So strength affects your attack, dexterity affects your movement and your, like, minor defense. Intelligence is how you cast spells and identify potions. Does it boost up strength for now? I think at some point, by the way, he actually changed this, like, the sunlight didn't move as fast. I'm not sure if it basically has, like, an earlier thing he basically did, or if it's basically, like, more of, like, a later thing he basically did. Read the primer. Gonna get like revealing essence and stuff. Let's see here. I know that basically like this version here, you slow time down by like 2 times, make it easier to utilize sunlight. I'll already basically did it again at some point to, like, make it even slower. So no, there's like the Sanguine War again. You don't pick that up. Interesting. Now, one thing I really do hate is the fact that, like, this is actually something that, like, it seems that Jeremiah basically likes to do, but he basically has it so you can't remember, like, what you basically, like, already basically seen. You can only, like, see, like, what you basically see with the character. It's not my favorite element of his, like, games, because it's not his, first time he's done it for his game either. The monster's heal. Good to know. Ow. Heal up a little bit. Note that the vampires can see me in the darkness, by the way, but, I can't see them. I missed the war. I wonder when we basically add like maps. Because, obviously there's no map. Oh, there is a map. It's right there. Never mind. I can have a map. Is this always on? Read the primer. This is far easier with the map, by the way. Obviously. You pick up a gold sword, better than what I have. Take the stairs. So yeah, you can see I could have like, a couple identified potions, the soul elixir, the ale, the oil, but everything else is unidentified. Let's see here. I've got 2 of that one there. Whoops, that's a vial of blood. So I turn to a vampire. Well, we know what blood is now. You showed us out the first few words. Vampires can't read good. I'll stay as a vampire for a little bit here, but whatever. I have to say for the music, by the way, that I wonder why he basically ditched something like the sound like, you know, he basically initially had. If he just went for like something that's basically like, you know, truly all he owned basically for audio, or like, you know, if you just like decide like some music like, you know, didn't fit the tone. Now, I gotta be careful, by the way, because like, you know, sunlight can kill me, because, you know, I'm a vampire now. There's a snake. I'm poisoned, so there's poison happening to me. I'm gonna kill that bat in one shot. I think at some point, by the way, that he actually made it so like vampires and like humans got a little bit smarter with like, you know, sunlight. They like, you know, vampires would avoid it, and like, you know, humans would basically go into it. Get out of my way, he says. And we'll stay in vampire form for a little bit. There aren't explosions in the sunlight. In human cities, he's known as the exiled vampire prince. He has a different name here. Cool. Aid a human. There's a tree man. Ow. So Husk aren't Fingus yet. And Ergo died, but whatever. So that's basically like, you know, when the four things were basically in there. He's got poison delusions. So this one, basically you got like, you know, the map shows lighting. So basically you can see where sunlight basically is, windows, unlit torches. Adds a queue, add when you're starvation. You got the wiki, now works on numpad. The green man has been moved up a floor, prevent earlier deaths to sunlit green men because like they're going to be more powerful. Lapis golems moved down a floor. Slightly less experience required to level. Hunger issues reduce a bit, bullers slow somewhat, and a few early monsters are easier. So, you know, balancing stuff. Let's just jump in here. We'll see on the mini-map that the sunlight is actually now, like, visible, I guess. You know, I sort of feel that basically this would have been a good start for, like, you know, some, like, you know, runs. We actually have to, like, you know, use the sunlight to sort of, like, you know, beat the vampire. Cool, level up. I'll take this. And yeah, you can see on the map the sunlight, like, you know, sunlight just beaming in. You feel more clever. There's the vampire bat going, or rather just the bat going, not necessarily vampire bat. There's a gold sword. Several kills. See, I tweaked the grunts to be a lot weaker, I guess, so, you know, now I can sort of like beat them pretty easily. Notice, by the way, when you're basically like right next to a wall, you can't really see very far down it because, like, you know, you can only see like the wall right here, nothing past it. But when you basically stand here, you can see like, you know, this part of the wall. When you're here, you can see this part of the wall. You know, you see far like, you know, down the walls when you basically like, you know, are far away from them. I don't think that's a thing in like the you know, the actual game. So. Take the stairs. So I'm poisoned. Wait for the poison to go away. Heal up. There's a shield. Sunlight exists. I'm just not really using it, but whatever. And I got killed by a bat, but whatever. Oh, the sunlight burned me. I turned into a vampire there and I didn't realize it. Okay. This is obviously like, you know, something up by, but there's no like bars, so like telling you like, you know, how close to being a vampire you basically are just yet in like these like passive versions. That came a little bit later. And then we get like, you know, the final 7-year like, you know, update here basically in like, you know, 2015. So almost a year later, this is basically like, you know, how far you basically worked on the game. So there's tips. So basically, spacer 5 to, you know, heal, help in controls, tiles to get, you know, get information. There's the music. Okay, so help actually now has like, you know, this stuff here. There's poison, magic. Yeah, silver used to be a thing, by the way. We have the disguise that's basically popping at this point. So we got like Vagabond, Officer, Assassin, Scholar. So Vagabond, choose which stats you increase, very flexible, but no additional bonuses. Officer, whenever you level up, you gain 1 strength. You start with like +2 armor. Assassin, when you level up, you gain 1 dexterity. You start with a dexterity boost potion. Scholar, whenever you level up, you gain 1 intelligence. You start with an additional spell. We'll just keep it simple, go with the Officer. I'm pretty sure this is a version I basically played by when I basically first, like, you know, checked this out. The 7-year-old version. We still have oil that way, but, you know, whatever. Okay, level up. And because we're an officer, we automatically get the, like, you know, boost to our strength. Nope, by the way, of course, basically just stop being a thing in, like, you know, later versions. Like what I'm basically playing right now. I like how you can see a certain darkness basically on the map here too. So here's the Chronicle. Learned ice. I learned Department blood. Don't got any blood just yet. It's interesting how I can basically like, you know, see items in the dark on the map, but I can't actually see them. It's still very much a game in development, basically, as you can see here, so. I wonder if he made it so like bastards randomly teleport around is the idea with him. Right, I'm like them just like, you know, start moving off randomly. We got our strength potion. Got some gold. Our potion. I'm really glad I got rid of the oil, by the way, because that feels like, you know, an unnecessary sort of mechanic. So here's the stairs. So there's, you know, a bit more in the Sangam War. So, you know, there's like a, you know, a mercenary. Note that doesn't tell me what spells he has. That came a little bit later. Of course, I fear Fane, but I'm more afraid of returning to Stribia. Picked up an identified potion there. Erebus hates Fane. Yes, yes, she does. I've heard rumors that General Erebus was seen in a nearby town. Oh, I'm a vampire now. Ow. Probably didn't do that right, but whatever. Cool. Healed up a little bit there. This is the first floor. Seems like there's a lot basically on it, but you know, it's only later on, right, that basically like you start to like reduce the the tower sizes basically like on earlier floors. I want to change this, like, you know, stuff can spawn in front of hallways like that at some point. I don't really remember it really happening in, like, you know, my playthroughs, right? So. I killed a man once. I would believe that. You're a vampire. There's copper armor. Identified potion. So yeah, basically a bunch of potions here. As you can see, they're all unidentified at this point, so there's soul elixirs, ale, oil. Note that I guess like when you're basically like, you know, a vampire, they're all unidentified to you, so that's something to keep in mind. Note, by the way, you can't see the red dots for like the enemies because that wasn't basically a thing just yet. There's soul elixir, worth picking up. Let's go to the next level here. There's a mercenary, of course. Or I guess that's like, you know, a marauder. Oh, well, I died. Well, that's basically good to sort of show off, like, the Cinderellas here a little bit. And it's really fun to basically see, like, where basically all, like, sort of, like, came from, but whatever. Alright, well, take care, all.